Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 62 of season 4 of Be With Me. We are going to run through the life of one of my favorite people in the Bible who's not Jesus. I'm going to title this The Patron Saint of Scardy-cats. And we're talking about Nicodemus, who comes to Jesus at night. The subtitle of this is Nicodemus, the night guy. He's actually known as the night guy. He's referred to as the night guy. Now, what happens to Nicodemus, you can't believe it. Us old Christian fuddy-duds, we have to look at this with new eyes. Jesus says some stuff to Nicodemus that just never had been heard before. The gospel had never been given. He gives these absolute treasures to this guy. And then we see the other great thing about Nicodemus is a lot of people in the Bible, we just see moments of their life, like Joanna is basically a single mention in the Bible, and it's a faithful mention, and it's all great, and she's going to win a crown of glory. But Nicodemus, we see year after year after year. We see like a 3-year arc for Nicodemus. And he starts with sort of the grand we, and then goes to a personal knowledge, and then a personal belief, and then behavior. And we get to see it all in the arc of his Christian life. It's very, very unique. In fact, I was thinking about this today, is we know more about, just talking about the spiritual real estate, how much area of the Bible is dedicated to particular individuals who aren't Jesus. We know more about Nicodemus and his spiritual walk, his spiritual conversion during Jesus' lifetime than we do about most of the disciples. So he's a very important people. God puts him in the Bible for a reason. And let's explore this. So here it is. This is from John chapter 3, very famous. I'm going to say one of the very famous things that happens to him. John chapter 3, verse 1. Now there was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. So he's in the Sanhedrin probably. Verse 2. This man came to Jesus by night and said to him, Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher come from God, for no one can do these signs that you do unless God is with him. So he's somehow moved and disturbed by the signs. Verse 3, Jesus answered him, Truly, truly, I say to you, unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. And Nicodemus said to him, How can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter a second time into his mother's womb and be born? Great answer, Nicodemus. All right, so just back up the bus here. Jesus doesn't live where Nicodemus lives. Nicodemus lives in Jerusalem. Jesus lives 80 miles away. However, he comes to celebrate at least some of the feasts into Jerusalem. So he comes down to Jerusalem here. This is probably the first Passover that Jesus attends in his public ministry. So let's say there are 3 of them or so. Don't exactly know that, I think. But this is the first time. So it's early in Jesus's ministry, and he gives this line to Nicodemus, not to the world, by the way. He gives this to an individual, to Nicodemus, unless one is born again. So famous, it's almost trite. We have to hear this through new spiritual ears that apparently Nicodemus had. So we find him coming at night. We find him curious and mentioning, hey, you've done some signs, and I noticed. I was disturbed by them. So we call this podcast Biblical Wonder. So he starts with maybe wonder, and then he gets sort of disturbed enough to actually come to Jesus. So the whole world is waiting for what Jesus says to Nicodemus, but the world doesn't wait 6 billion people or whatever. The world waits one individual at a time, one believer, one pre-believer at a time. And Nicodemus almost says that. He says, we know that, it's like the whole world is coming. No. And then we see personal belief and personal behavior of great courage that Nicodemus will eventually pull off. So we have to remember that Nicodemus is a real person. He's really afraid. He really comes. He has real political problems, as we'll see in John chapter 7. He has a lot to think about it. We need to think about it this first time because he thinks about it for a first time. He has these questions and curiosity and gets to pursue God. So he eventually gets gobsmacked and God-smacked by this. So let's talk about nighttime. Why would he come at night? Because he's afraid. That's why. John chapter 12, verse 43 says, nevertheless, many of the authorities believed in him. But for the fear of the Pharisees, they did not confess it, so they would not be put out of the synagogue. So maybe he's like that. He's afraid or prideful, and he has this secret exploration of Jesus, which welcome to the Gospels. We find this guy here starting at night because he's afraid. So my thought is, if you're afraid of Jesus and you're making a preliminary exploration, quote unquote, at night or online or via this podcast, let's say, welcome. You have the patron saint of Scardy-cats right here. And I just love this, that after Jesus is crucified, we find that Nicodemus is faithful all the way to the end. But this is the hilarious part. So they're taking Jesus down off the cross. And in John chapter 19, Nicodemus also, who early had come to Jesus by night. So they refer back to this moment so a faithful life, a faithful belief, a world-class Christian, Nicodemus, he turns out, sorry, I spoiled it. But we find him referred to as, hey, you're the night guy. You're the guy that came to Jesus at night. You were the guy that was afraid of Jesus. And then we find him doing some very, very brave things. So if you're that guy or that girl who comes today as a Scardy-cat, welcome to the club. You have the patron saint of Scardy-cats today. Thanks for listening.